As we enter 2026, I think something fundamental is about to change in how software teams are staffed and how quality is produced. And it won't be because we finally picked the right methodology. Agile, waterfall, and everything in between, they'll all still exist, but they'll all start to feel different because this change isn't methodological, it's economic. For decades, the most expensive problem in software delivery wasn't execution, it was ambiguity. Ambiguity about requirements, ambiguity about workflows, ambiguity about what done actually meant. And because ambiguity was expensive, we hired people to absorb it. We built entire roles around translation. Product managers filling gaps, business analysts translating intent, project managers negotiating realities, testers compensating for decisions that were never fully made, and engineers, especially those in automation, were paid senior rates to preserve fragile systems built on unclear intent. That model worked until it didn't. Because the most expensive part of delivery was never running code, it was translation, translating intent into requirements, requirements into tests, tests into automation, then paying again every time something changed. There's an old video I think about a lot. It's a public Q&A where a developer openly insults and challenges the late great, legendary, iconic Steve Jobs, basically telling him he didn't know what he was talking about. And Jobs doesn't argue technology or implementation details. He reframes the entire problem. He says that if you're trying to move 9 or 10 billion units of product, you can't start with the technology and then try to convince people it's valuable. You have to start with the value, what it actually does for people, and then work backwards into the technology that delivers it. That wasn't anti-technology. That was scale thinking. Now, here's why that example matters and why it's not unlike what we face today in quality. In both cases, the mistake was the same. We started with technology and tried to sell it as value. In product, value stayed visible. Users pushed back, markets responded, reality corrected bad decisions. Quality, however, didn't have that same feedback loop. As companies became more engineering-led, quality quietly became defined by what engineers could measure, automate, and control. Frameworks became proxies for confidence, coverage became stand-ins for understanding, and automation output became synonymous with quality. We didn't start with the value of quality, confidence, risk reduction, fitness for use, and engineer all of that backwards. No, we started with automation and tried to sell it as quality. And that is how we arrived here. So, a typical delivery team looks like this: one product manager, one business analyst, one project manager, 3 to 4 SDETs or software development engineers in test, maintaining automation, 1 or 2 manual testers, if that. I mean, many delivery teams have done away with their manual testing team altogether. That's a staffing model designed to survive ambiguity. And here's the hidden cost. Most of the automation effort isn't creating new coverage. It's maintenance, relearning intent, repairing brittle tests after UI and workflow changes. You're paying senior engineer rates just to stand still. Coverage plateaus, delivery slows, and quality becomes more expensive the faster you move. AI doesn't eliminate ambiguity, it collapses the cost of absorbing it. That distinction matters, because when execution and maintenance become cheap, organizations no longer need to staff entire roles around translation. The structure begins to change. One product manager owns value and definition of done, one analyst clarifying intent and constraint, one project manager managing flow and delivery risks, and one Specialized SDET focuses on frameworks, CI, and genuinely hard automation problems, and several strong professional testers paired with AI that executes and maintains the tests for them. Here's the economic difference. The marginal cost of creating and changing tests drops, maintenance stops dominating budgets, coverage grows without linear increase in staff. That alone saves real money on every feature, every release, and every regression cycle. If you look at most QA manager or director job descriptions today in early 2026, they're still written with an automate first mindset, as if automation itself is the strategy. Heavy on frameworks, heavy on pipelines, heavy on engineering identity. They're optimized for a world where humans had to absorb ambiguity with code. That world is ending. You can already see the failure in motion. These roles get posted, they get filled, and then quietly they're reopened a year later, sometimes less. Not because the person they hired failed, but because the role itself was never designed to solve the real problem. The leader does exactly what the job asked: better frameworks, cleaner pipelines, more automation, early wins appear, dashboards improve, coverage goes up. Then the maintenance curve reasserts itself. Ambiguity persists, requirements shift late, tests still break, translations still happen, just inside better tools. So the outcome doesn't change, cost doesn't drop, speed doesn't materially improve, confidence still feels fragile, and the organization doesn't change the model. It changes the person. And the cycle repeats again. This isn't role reduction, it's role clarification. Product owns value and intent, analysts structure knowledge, and project managers manage flow and risks. Testers apply judgment to evaluate reality. Automation executes checks instead of compensating for missing decisions. When roles clarify, costs rebalance. You stop paying the interest on decisions that were never made. You stop funding complexity as a virtue. You stop mistaking headcount for progress. That's where wisdom, long pushed out of delivery, comes back in. Not as nostalgia, but as a leverage. Manual testers don't return because automation failed. They returned because AI finally makes evaluation and judgment scalable, without turning them into engineers they were never meant to be. Methodologies don't disappear. They simply stop carrying the weight of ambiguity they were never designed to hold. By the end of 2026, the teams that outperform won't be arguing frameworks. They'll be the ones who understood this shift early enough to reorganize around it. When ambiguity becomes cheap, roles becomes clear. When roles become clear, costs rebalance, and quality finally becomes as scalable as we always claimed it was.